Welcome to Wielding Legacy. My name is Payne-Stanley. This podcast is for high achievers, visionaries, creatives, coaches, and consultants. Because the key to unlocking your future lies in legacies. You see, I know you are here creating an impact in your industry. You are here building a legacy for you and your family. And it drives you and it occupies your mind. But through my work as a trusted advisor to extraordinary entrepreneurs, I know you aren't yet reaching your greatest potential in business, your performance, and potentially in relationships. I'm known with my clients for being their loudest cheerleader. I often believe in them even before they do so themselves, and yet you can't enroll me in your legacy limiting story. I'm your biggest empowering challenger as you create your ultimate legacy. This podcast is called Wielding Legacy because the key to unlocking your future lies in legacies. Welcome to today's Wielding Legacy conversation. And today I'm welcoming a lady who really does bring zest into business and any room that she is in. An amazing visual brand specialist, Nisha Haq.
I feel like legacy is something that's greater than you. I think a lot of people can feel very singular in entrepreneurship, or it's all about me. But I feel like legacy is more than you. It's bringing people together and it's showcasing a light where, it might not have been shown before. My mum was very supportive, and my dad just didn't really know how to support me, but he obviously loved me and he wanted me to do well and kind of follow my passion. But it was just completely alien to kind of where my family come from.
In this episode, we're discussing breaking family and cultural narratives and norms, especially when it comes to creating a legacy that is true to ourselves. This includes the power of tenacity and finding your passion at a young age. So, welcome to the next episode of Wielding Legacy, and I am delighted today to welcome a lady that I have known for a number of years in quite a few different kind of functionalities, let's say. And she is always a joy to have in the room. So welcome to the podcast, Nisha Haq.
Thank you. And I'm delighted to be here. Thank you so much for having me on.
Let's dive straight in. So what does legacy mean to you?
I feel legacy it's a big word. So I'm just kind of break it down a little bit. I feel like legacy is something to pass on for generations. And that something is whether it's your knowledge, whether it's your just your aura, your just essence of who you are, and whether that's something that you can impart on other people. Wisdom, huge part of it. And also, I think there's an element of like representation as well, kind of showcasing there's more to every generation. There's more, not even just generation, even it's just within that, just within communities. I feel like legacy is something that's greater than you. I think a lot of people can feel very singular in entrepreneurship, or it's all about me. But I feel like legacy is more than you. It's bringing people together and it's showcasing a light where, it might not have been shown before. So for me, legacy is really important because I feel like there's still so much to do, still so much to give, still so much to explore and experience. And for other people who haven't been as fortunate as me to go in that journey, if there's something I could do to help them with that and encourage people, I feel like that's what legacy really means at the heart of it, I think.
Oof. And we were talking just before we started recording about how big a term legacy can feel, how grown up almost a term it can feel too. How is legacy?
It feels like you have to be older.
It feels like you have to be older. I do kind of like that.
I feel like we're not old enough to say legacy or to use the word legacy, but
it's interesting because you said about representation, and then we've just said about actually not feeling necessarily old enough to talk about legacy. What, when it comes to representation and legacy, did you see growing up? Did you see people who you identified with creating a legacy that you would love to create, that inspired you way outside of what you were already thinking as a child?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. I didn't see many people who looked like me or who identified similar to me when I was growing up. So it was quite yeah, I suppose that it was quite a bit of an internal battle to kind of get over those barriers and to get over kind of just those insecurities and that lack of confidence, because I didn't really see that representation growing up. And definitely now more, I'm seeing a lot more kind of South Asian representation, or just kind of more young females just doing their thing, or just people of color, just really kind of breaking through that and just showcasing, yeah, you can be all these different things. You don't have to be this one set thing of what society kind of expects you to, or the kind of harmful stereotypes you kind of see about people that kind of look the way they do. So it's just nice to know that, yeah, there are, now that I'm in that community and I'm starting to see a lot more representation in the media, it does feel good to like, yeah, no, this not just me out there, there's loads of other people out there, and it's okay. I think there's also that permission element of like, oh yeah, no, it's okay to do that, you know. But yeah, definitely in my family, you know, my family are more subscribed to the 9 to 5. They worked in education, that kind of like job for life kind of thing. So when I said, oh, I wanted to start my own business and be an entrepreneur, I was like, what? Very alien. It just wasn't really done in the family. No one had done it before, so they're very supportive, but they just didn't know how to support me because they hadn't experienced it, or they didn't know anyone who had. So it was very much learning by myself and just kind of finding the right people around me to help me with that journey. So yeah.
It's interesting. So listeners, and if you're watching the podcast, go back to the episode with Chelsea Abrill. And Chelsea was also talking about, as she was growing up, that she didn't see anybody who looked like her, or who she identified with, having the kind of success that even she aspired to be then as a child, but also even bigger than she aspired to be. So she had role models who didn't look like her because they had an essence of who she wanted to be, but she couldn't find anybody growing up in Hawaii who looked like her. And she identified, she said, I didn't see anyone who was brown, growing up in a certain way, creating a legacy, creating a life that meant I could do it too, who gave me permission and inspired me to do it. So that's almost what you're saying, isn't it, Nisha? Is that permission because someone's done it before you?
Yeah, and just also kind of knowing that it's not weird or strange or odd, like it's normal. Just normalizing that, yeah, I could be an entrepreneur, I can start my own business or be a creative photographer. And you know, you get this kind of stereotypes where, especially kind of my industry, being photography, is very male dominated. And you kind of, even going for my course, I did a photography degree, and it's weird because the degree was, I would say, predominantly kind of like 2/3 female and 1/3 male in terms of the actual class. But then in terms of the industry and the kind of, when you start to work in it, it's predominantly more men. So it's kind of like, you kind of go through the education system thinking, oh yeah, there's a lot more creative females. But when you actually work as your own boss or work in the industry, you kind of like, oh, where are all the females at?
Yeah, where did everyone go?
Yeah. So it was a bit weird, but I did transition into starting a business and kind of getting into that business world or just the photography world. But definitely feel like I found, now that being in the industry for a good 7 years or so, I definitely feel like I found my space and found the kind of right people to surround myself with and have that support and everything.
I want to pick up something you said, which is around you being the first entrepreneur in a family. And this is around generational narratives and legacy narratives we can have about what we should do. You know, what's kind of almost that, even if no one says it to us overtly, you should, and sometimes we have that narrative too, but if people don't say you should do this, we can have these unwritten generational narratives of expectations of what we should do, whether it's before, even if we go to university, or after university, what we should do next. How did that manifest for you, Nisha? What were your generational narratives, and how did you, for our listeners, how did you help change that generational narrative if you were the first entrepreneur in your family?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question. It's something that, reflecting back on, I'm really glad I managed to navigate through that. I hadn't realized how hard it was. When you're in it, you don't realize how hard it is, but kind of looking back at it again, oh, that was hard. But I think, so I suppose I'll just give you kind of a bit of a background. So my dad, he's been a lecturer at college all his life. And I've got an older brother, he's 3.5 years older than me, and very much following my father's footsteps. And like he's just finished his PhD and kind of similar to my dad, and very much the academic route. You go into university, you get the education, and you work in education and you teach all that kind of stuff. And my mum also works in college as well. So surrounded by that and this academia, and don't get me wrong, I loved academia at school. I was one of those kids that just wanted to get A's or whatever, and if I got anything less than that, it was a failure. So it's just kind of coming through that kind of mentality and kind of thinking, okay, I need to do like, I know, humanities course, or I know something that had a proper job, or something that was, you know, give you a stable income or something, or a career. So when I started to express I'm interested in photography or graphic design, it was between those two subjects when I was at college, and then kind of looking at different universities and looking to study photography. That was when I started to kind of say, oh, okay, my mum was very supportive, and my dad just didn't really know how to support me, but he obviously loved me and he wanted me to do well and kind of follow my passion. But it was just completely alien to kind of where my family come from. My dad's he came from Bangladesh. He's the first generation in his family to be born, and he's the eldest out of 7 or 8 siblings. I'm trying to remember that. I've got a lot of aunties and uncles, but just kind of giving that background. So like for him, his way out from coming out of kind of Bangladesh and kind of being immigrant to this country, education was that kind of ticket to freedom, I suppose. So that was his upbringing. So obviously me being born in the UK and my upbringing being here and I'm hugely grateful for my parents for what they've given to me, but it's also recognizing that my future is going to be different, and kind of the opportunities that are available in the UK are going to be different as well. So when I kind of went down the path of wanted to explore my creativity, and this is what I was really passionate about, and even since as a young age, I knew I wanted to go through life with something I'm passionate about. I didn't want to go through a career, spend how many hours of my life doing something I didn't enjoy just for the money, because I feel like money was going to come from passion. And I knew my passionate kind of outlet was photography. So yeah, that was an interesting conversation to kind of say that I'm doing photography. This is what I'm going to study. This is what I'm going to do. And managed to get into a photography course at Solent University, which I'm hugely grateful for. But yeah, it was
can I go back to what I really think, because I think there'll be listeners and people who are watching on YouTube right now who may have this conversation coming up with either family or their partner, or they want to have this conversation that's going to in their mind, whether you're calling it, listeners, or not, that language that I'm using, but you're looking to break a generational narrative. You're looking to step outside your tribe. And when I say tribe, I mean tribe is that family unit, or the people who brought you up, however you identify that. But you are looking to break a tradition of your tribe. And that's what we're doing. And the reason I say that is because when we talk about tribal behavior, actually, it's not normally safe. You know, if we go back to saber-toothed tiger land, it wasn't safe for us to be outside our tribe. So it does take courage to break away from our tribe. It does take courage to do something different from our tribe, even if we don't want to break away from the tribe, because you are changing some of the narratives of the tribe. And some of your tribe, as always happens, could abreact. And we say abreact because actually they're wondering what your change means back to them. You know, how, if Nisha does something different, what does that mean about me? So can you share with us how you actually started that conversation? Were you worried? Were you happy? Were you nervous about having the conversation? And how does someone navigate sitting down or standing up, however you want to do it, and having that conversation with their tribe?
Oh, it's a really tough one. Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It was really hard. Okay. The kind of the breaking point, and I think most people experience this after leaving university. I had a lot of success at university. I managed to get in my final year, managed to do like a Dragon's Den type entrepreneurial pitching, where kind of pitched to get some funding for my business idea. So I managed to get £2,000 from the university, and I thought, oh, okay, I feel good. People believe in my business idea. I'm not just some random person. Like, people think I've got bones to this. So, you know, it's not just me thinking, I'm wishful thinking. It has got actual legs to it. So leaving my final year with that kind of investment and kind of thinking, yeah, you know what, I'm going to start my photography business. I feel good about this. But then coming back after, the bubble of university years, living their independent life, I moved back home for a few months, and that's kind of when the cracks started to show, because I lived 3 years of being really independent. I'd grown from an 18 to a 21-year-old. In those years, I've kind of become my own person, my own woman. And then moving back into my parents' house is like, and I've got a strong personality, and my parents have got their own personalities. So that's when we had those deep discussions about, it wasn't more so my mum, it was more so with my dad, and those deep discussions of like, this is my career path. Like, I am really serious about doing photography and having a career in photography and setting my own business, because the photography industry predominantly are freelancers. You have to be able to know how to work as your own business in that, and there's barely any jobs as working in a career or 9 to 5. So I said to my parents, like, I want to start my own business, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna start it. Can I have some space in the house to be able to do this whilst I find my feet? Ideally, I want to find my own place and obviously move out of your house. I don't intend to stay at your place, but can I have the support? And that's where it was really difficult, because they just didn't know how to do that. They just weren't sure how to kind of support me, but they loved me, but at the same time they were just so confused about everything, and they just wanted me to have a normal 9 to 5 job where you go to work, you do your work job, you come back, and that's it. They didn't understand that running a business is a full-time thing, especially when you're starting up. It's 24/7. And I was very intense with it. I just wanted to get going. I just was itching just to start. I had my funding investment, and I just wanted to use it. So yeah, don't get me wrong, there was lots of heated conversations and stuff just at the beginning journey. But I think as soon as I was able to get, so my kind of career started off, I managed to get a graduate position at my university and be able to fly the nest and go back to Southampton again, actually. And that's kind of when, after having that space away from, I think, because there's just so many personalities in one house, and it all kind of bubbled over. When I was able to move away and get onto the career ladder, and my parents started to see like, oh no, she's got a proper job, she's kind of like working on the career ladder. I think having that space and distance and time apart, we were able to kind of really kind of figure out, oh, okay, you are really serious about your photography. And I was able to get a second round of investment. There was a Solent, which is like local enterprise partnerships, where they invest in young entrepreneurs. I went for that, which is a second round of funding. And that's kind of when I managed to get 5,000 to invest in my business. So at this point, I had £7,000 to kind of really start the business. And that's kind of when my parents started to realize, oh, she's really serious about this. The fact that I showed initiative to go out there and fend it myself. I didn't ask my parents for funding. I think just showing tenacity and just intuition and just the way just to go about it and just self-starting, I think that's kind of really showed, oh, okay, no, she's doing it herself. And also there was an element of like wanted to prove people wrong. Definitely at the beginning where I felt like there's a lot of naysayers. Like I remember a family friend saying, oh, you're going to fail if you start a photography business, and really negative words, just not very encouraging at all. And I think it just came from a place of fear, or a place of just not really understanding where I was coming from. I don't know whether they're weirdly trying to protect me, to saying, oh, you're going to fail, so just don't bother starting, because I don't want you to see you fail, or whether they were just, I don't know, envious that I had that passion and I wanted to go for it. But that definitely fired me and fueled me in the early stages to get to where I am. So I think that's kind of how that kind of progressed once my parents started, especially my dad, started to see where I was going with it. That's kind of when the support, like, oh, okay, I get that you're sufficient, you're financially independent, you got your own career in your life, and you're doing really well, and I'm proud of you. And it was those moments when I realized, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of, we're good.
You've got that. So going back to younger Nisha, because at 21, it would be very easy for us to have an intuition of what we wanted to do with our business and our life. It'd be very easy for us to have that, but also very easy with we do call them tribal elders and coaching, in terms of, parents are the restricted tribal elders, and aunties and anybody else who may be older than us, but actually technically who see to be wiser than us. For you to have changed your position, for you to have bent to almost let go of your values of passion being your lead and gone to a point of safety, which is potentially where people were trying to guide you towards. How did you have the fortitude to, I want to say, I don't like to stick to your guns, but it's a phrase that we often use. And obviously you'd already said once someone said you couldn't, then that acts as like, right then, I'm going to show you. But before that, how did you have the internal strength to be able to articulate and stay your course as you built your legacy, even if you didn't use that word right then when you were 21? How did you do that as a younger woman?
Oh, that's a good question. I think throughout life, people have always underestimated me, even if it's just little microaggressions here and there. And I think that kind of narrative built up to the point where I was ready to really kind of soar and ready to just really go for it. And I think those little experiences kind of just made me want to prove people wrong even more so. So I think that's kind of where internally that came from. Whether it's at, external, I don't see people who look like me do what I do, whether it's kind of people on my photography course kind of saying things, or whether it's people like, I know, just I'm just trying to think of like specific examples, but just people look at me and think, oh, you're really small and you're an Asian woman, what have you got to offer? That kind of attitude. And you're in a room full of like I have actually been in a room full of pinstriped middle-aged white men, and I stick out like a sore thumb wearing my bright colourful clothes and just being really the odd one out. And you kind of feel that this is really odd, but at the same time I'm equally been invited to be here, and I have every right to be here because I've earned my place and I've worked hard to be here. And I think all those little kind of moments in life kind of made me feel, yeah, no, I just really want to do this. And I think that passion was so deep inside me to really go for it. I think that's kind of what really pulled me through, because even like people like some of my housemates, as people on my course were just like, what, you do all of this, or like, really, in a way of just like, oh, I didn't know you had it in you to do that. Like, that's not normal for students to do that, just to get investment and just go and make their own business kind of thing. The courses, you do your 3 years, you get a job, and you kind of figure out what you want to do in your 30s. 20s is for living life to the full, and don't get me wrong, that's true, but also get on the career ladder and work your way up and stuff. And I think I feel like I just really had it deep inside me. And there's also, I think also I'm very competitive, like between my brother and I as well. Like I felt like he was the golden child. He probably hate me for saying this. But I feel like between the two of us, and him being the eldest son and stuff, I feel like there was this weird element of me of just like, I just want to create my own path. I just want to do my own thing that's separate from everyone else and just do something that makes me really happy. I think that it was also an element of that growing up, and I still have with me. Well, now where I am in my career, in my life, that's not something, a driving force as such, because I feel like I've established myself. But definitely in the early days, in my early 20s, I was definitely very fiery and wanted to kind of just get going, which helped me to where I am now. So, I definitely have to thank younger Nisha for that.
So it's interesting. So listeners, go and listen to the episode if you haven't already with the West, Kelly and James West, because James talks about being the golden child in his family. And what's interesting about you saying that you were almost the anti-golden child, that was somebody else's label for your sibling. It's interesting to see both sides of this, of when one has the label of the golden child, one doesn't have the label of the golden child. Actually, as we create legacy, how it can fuel both people in different ways. It's really interesting from that point of view.
Yeah, I'll have to listen to that. I feel like James and I've got similar personalities as well. So I'll have to catch up with him and ask him what his thoughts are being the golden child and stuff.
Yeah, it would be interesting. But one thing you just said as well that is so interesting to me, because it's actually a term that's misused. Your flatmate, your housemate had said to you, it's not normal. Now, this is something that comes up all the time in the coaching world. Actually, what they mean is it's not common. And when we transpose those two words, what are we actually saying to someone? When someone actually means, oh, actually, it's uncommon for someone at university to set up a business, it's almost empowering, because you're like, I'm different. I'm doing something differently. I'm setting my own path. When we say it's not normal, it makes you feel like you aren't doing something that's correct. And that can be the rebel part in you that can be activated because you're like, right, someone's told me I'm not normal, then hang on, here I come, I'm going to prove you wrong. But actually, that subtle change in language, and we can do it as adults. We can often say what we actually mean is it's uncommon as to it's not normal. And actually, what is normal? Because that's a perspective issue, isn't it? And it's imagine now, and if someone had said to you, oh, that's uncommon for someone of your age to start a business, do you think it would have landed differently with you to uncommon to it's not normal?
Maybe. I felt like I wasn't normal anyway, so it didn't matter too much, I suppose. I always felt a little bit different growing up anyway. I'd always be the odd one out, kind of, especially predominantly living in kind of white areas, I suppose. I'd always stand out, and I had that growing up, so it didn't mean too differently anyway, because I was different from the get-go. So yeah, I don't, maybe I think it would have sounded more supportive, I suppose, if people said it was like, oh, it's uncommon, but that's great that you're doing that. Whereas I think some of the people I was surrounded by which probably envious, and I think that's probably looking back at it, and just get rid of that kind of toxic kind of types of people, which is not the kind of thing that you want to help you grow. So managed to find the right tribe now, definitely, but yeah, back then I was just I'm just gonna shut that out and not kind of think that way, I suppose.
So for anyone who is, let's just say 21 or younger, now I remember my 21-year-old self, and I have a story to share on this too. If anyone was 21 years and younger, and it doesn't matter, university, college, school, didn't finish school, I'm not talking about what your level of education is, but anyone 21 years and younger who wants to set up a business, what would you advise them to if actually setting up a business they feel as part of their legacy creation, even if they don't use those words? What would be your advice to them, or to yourself as younger Nisha right now?
Oh, good one. Okay. One thing I do try and encourage, especially when I do like talks and stuff to students, is to get there as early as possible. Find the right people that you want to be inspired by. It doesn't have to be people you want to start a business with, but just people that feel and think similar to you, in the sense of like wanting to go out there and try something and explore and experiment. I feel like a lot of startups don't even get started because they're too afraid to fail, or they're too afraid to experiment. I feel like finding the right communities would really help you with that. So I think when I was really fortunate to find kind of like entrepreneurial societies when I was at university, really seek that out. It doesn't have to be at university. There's loads of local meetups. I think more so in the cities. I suppose it's quite hard to do it when you're out in the sticks, but even online now, that those loads of things are like Zoom and stuff nowadays, isn't it? Find those kind of networking groups, and as I'm kind of doing different networking groups, I'm always finding younger people than me, which is amazing to see, like the new generations coming through, and like, you know, it's not just a room full of older people, which is great. You've got that big age kind of wealth of, you know, experience and expertise and viewpoints. So surrounding yourself with people who are different to you but also similar. I know that sounds a bit
no, same but different. Yeah,
definitely. You need to find people similar that you feel supported by, and you feel like, oh yeah, I'm represented. But at the same time, it's really good to find people who are completely different to you, because then you get completely different perspectives. So I think the one thing I would say is to young people is to just seek out. There's social media, use so many events, like go and meet up or go and like Eventbrite, and there's so many different events happening locally that you could just like, you know what, just go for it, even if it's really scary. One of the things I would say, like a lot of times, just contact the organizer and just see, you know, can I meet up with you 5 minutes before the event starts, just so I can be introduced to some people. Just little things like that. If you are a bit kind of like shy, or it's a bit kind of like scary to get started, that's the best way. I think where referrals come from, or where opportunities come from, is from people that you know and trust. And to get involved in the community is the best way to do that. So however young you are, it's no early to start. You can just get started whenever you're ready.
And I'm going to say, as someone who's over 40, I would definitely say we've got decades of doing it. Most people I ever meet say they wish they'd started younger. Most people who start a business wish they'd started younger. And other people, because I always have so much of my time I donate to do pro bono work. So whether I'm doing mentoring at university or I'm doing different things. And one of the things I will say, if you are of a younger age, find there are so many free available resources. So finding mentors. And one of the things I will say is, because I have mentored a lot of younger people at universities, at colleges, and I do some more now, is find someone who's got real life business experience, not just theory.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Nisha, your yes was like, I'm getting where you're coming from with this, because it is fine having a business plan. It is fine having these pages and pages and pages and pages of how you're going to make your business work. Yeah. Entrepreneurs, our mindset tends to be a little bit different, and someone who's done it, who will mentor you. And again, most people, you go to network and you just ask them a question, they'll be on it, they'll tell you a lot of this stuff, not because they're a coach and you're not paying for their services, because you're just chatting. And like most people have been through this, is real life experience if you want to have success quickly. And I don't mean that you need to be a millionaire by the time you're 30. You may want that, you may not. But I'm saying of the way to make your journey easier, the way to start a business that's got a healthy profit margin at the start. I've worked with businesses, and when you run the numbers, it's a revenue-based business that doesn't have enough margin to actually ever give that person enough room to breathe as an entrepreneur. There's just not in there. They're going to basically, you created a job for yourself. Nisha, you're nodding on that one. And we can do these things, but also many entrepreneurs who will mentor as well will tell you the quickest way to even set up a business, like the fundamentals of how you register a business and what insurance that you need, and all these little tricks and ticks and hacks and everything else that we know. It's such a different experience working with someone who's been a mentor and has been an entrepreneur and has had success, because they know so much of this information rather than the theory books. And studying business is great, and I'm never going to take away from that. But it's different when you start your own business.
Oh, yeah.
Entrepreneurs, we are a very friendly bunch. Most people will tell you most things if you just ask them, and getting yourself in the room. Nisha, are you an introvert or an extrovert?
Now I'd say more of an ambivert.
Oh, nice. Okay. So for listeners who don't understand what that means, can you explain?
So going through life, I'd always thought I was an extrovert, and I still probably identify more that way. Like my MBTI type is ENFP, okay. So the E more extrovert. But they do say ENFP is more so introverted leaning, and as I'm getting older as well, I really need that time to recharge. So a lot of extroverts, they thrive from being in a room full of energy or other people, and they bounce off from that energy, whereas they say for introverts, they kind of find the energy within, and they need that kind of time to kind of recharge. As I've been getting older, I'm realizing, actually, why do I get so tired about going to constant events or doing loads of weddings and stuff? Because I haven't given myself that time to recharge, and I realized I really enjoy being in my own company. So ambivert is pretty much a bit of both, really. So I love being around people, and I love getting that buzz and that energy, but equally I feel like I need that time for myself, to reflect and just kind of be with my own company. So yeah, ambivert's a bit of both.
And most people tend to be a bit of both, and just different places on the spectrum of who you identify with. How has you now understanding your personality type in terms of being an ambivert, how has that changed how you're creating your legacy in your business?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like in my early 20s, in the mid 20s, I was very keen to reach these certain status milestones. And I don't know why I wanted to reach them, because that's what the entrepreneurial kind of community said. Oh, you need to get 6 figures or 7 figures before you're 30. Oh, you need to be in the Forbes 30 before 30 list and all these things. You're just like, oh yeah, I need to do all these things before I'm 30. And you kind of like, and then you kind of think, well, why? I don't know why I need to do that. And is this the kind of legacy I want to leave, just because I just worked myself to the bone, just because I could say I'm a 6-figure business? Like, I don't know what's the point in that when it's not making me happy. And I think getting older, and also during the pandemic and having that time to forced to be by myself, I suppose, and like, oh, I need to be comfortable in my own company, because, you know, I've been so used to just being around people all the time, or I'd seek events, opportunities to be around people. and realizing, oh no, actually I really like this time by myself and really have this deep reflection and really work on what it means to kind of enter a new stage in my life. So over the pandemic, bought a house, started to put roots down, all those kind of thoughts, and like, oh, I'm going to be here for like, 10, 15 years, whatever, like long-term thinking, not just like moving here and there, and really kind of planning out my future. And that's kind of where that legacy element really comes in. Like, okay, I see myself living in this area for X amount, years. What can I do to impact the local community? What can I do to get involved or whatever? And all those kind of questions started to kind of tie in with where I am in my life. I kind of thinking about like, going into my 30s, do I want kids? Do I want to start a family? What do I want to do? And all these kind of, imagine loads of other people's similar kind of milestones in their, where they are in their life, late 20s or whatever, kind of think in a similar way. All of this stuff is starting to kind of come together, and obviously with the backdrop of lockdown and everything. So I think that's kind of the amber version, I suppose, starting to kind of, that's how I was thinking more so that way. And actually it's really good for deep thinking, and it's really helped me think how I want to have a work-life balance. So last year I worked ridiculously hard, and my best financial year, partly because of all the lag from the previous years and catching up. But my mental health and my physical health was at my worst. Like, I'd been the unhealthiest I'd been in a very long time. And coming into this year, I reflected on, I don't want to be that way. I don't want to, I can't see myself continuing that journey, because it's going to, I don't know, hope it might kill me. Like, I don't know whether that was the right path to be on. And having that internal reflection and going through doing a house renovation amongst all of that, it kind of seeing the physical transformation of the house made me reflect upon myself as well. I mean, I'm putting all this time and money into the house, but I'm not doing it for myself. And I'm the most important person to myself, because if I can't look after myself, I can't look after other people. So that kind of having that internal reflection really helped with kind of seeing the bigger picture. And I suppose that ties in with legacy and knowing what message do I want to give to people. So that's kind of, this year is a lot more working on myself. And yeah, if I don't have my best financial year, that's fine, as long as I can still live comfortably and I still have the lifestyle that I want and be happy and passionate. I was worried that I was losing my passion for like creativity last year, because I was so I had symptoms of burnout. Whereas this year I feel like trying to get that right balance. Don't get me wrong, I'm still getting there, but it's just trying to find that balance that works for you, isn't it?
I mean, listeners to the podcast will know that I use work-life blend. One of the reasons I use blend rather than balance is only because for me, balance is a yoga pose, and it can set some people up for feeling like they're trying to achieve something they never quite can achieve, because it's this like finite, you're in balance or you're not in balance, and if you're out of it, you're out. Whereas actually most entrepreneurs will know in certain seasons, and I do call them seasons in our year, there'll be certain work-life blends when you've got more work involved, especially if you're working the world of weddings. There just are certain months that you have more work. And the blend would be, because it's your choice, so everyone should be empowered. When you choose your work-life blend and that month it's more work, then that's your choice. Whereas if we said balance, you can't look at that and go, I'm not in balance, because it on paper, it doesn't look, when you look at your calendar, it doesn't look like you're in balance. But there's also times when, as an empowered entrepreneur, that your blend will be much more rest, much more reflection, much less work. So it's why I use blend, because everybody have a choice. Apart from the only other, my caveat has only been the pandemic, is postponements, because a lot of the time that isn't a choice. We've created schedules that we never would create normally because we had delayed work that came in and things like this. So the last couple of years, and even this year's for some people in the wedding world, is still not their desired work-life blend, because they've got layover work to do from the last couple of years. But we do have a choice. We have a choice of our blend at any season in our entrepreneurial journey.
I love the word blend. Actually, now that you've said that, like, I should use that more. Because you're right. Balance it's very binary. It's either imbalanced or you're not, and I'm about living life that isn't binary. So I feel like blend is a nice word, because it's fluid, isn't it? It's
fluid, and it's our choice. At the end of the day, it's our choice whether actually we decide that time, and I don't subscribe to, as an entrepreneur, that there's these times never work hard. I've never met an entrepreneur who is passionate about what they do and they will get lost in their work as well because they love what they do, that doesn't work hard. And actually that work-life balance can make us feel like we shouldn't work hard, and we shouldn't just somehow go, do you know what, I'm going to take a month off or 2 months off or no months off or whatever you want to do, because as the rebel and you will know, Nisha, we create our own rules as an entrepreneur. That's why many of us do this. So we aren't given a set of rules.
Yeah, no, I like that. Yeah.
Love it. Well, try work-life blend and see how it kind of works for you. Okay.
Yeah, no, I think, yeah, definitely. It's like you said, changing the language and the connotations behind language, I think it's really important. So yeah, I like that. I'm definitely going to be using that more.
Brilliant. So just before we wrap up our conversation today, as you look to create your legacy going forward, what are your 3 non-negotiables to creating your legacy, Nisha?
Oh, this is a really tough one. when you mentioned this earlier, I was really struggling. I think the number 1 is passion, because that's what got me on this journey in the first place.
Yeah.
I feel having the right people around you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, actually, I gave this speech when I was I had to give a commencement speech when I got an honorary degree from university, and I was struggling to figure out what to say. And I said 3 P's, so passion, people, and perseverance. I feel that those 3 things have gotten me through kind of where I am. And I feel like it's the same for legacy, in terms of, even if you kind of knocking on loads of doors and it's nothing's happening, just keep persevering, keep going for it. So I feel like those 3 P's have gotten me through kind of like just life in general, or just gotten to help me where I am today. So I think those 3 values are going to stay the same for legacy. Yeah, passion, people, and perseverance are the 3 things to kind of really get me through. And I think, yeah, hopefully that's the legacy that people are going to respond to as well, and they kind of feel the same way.
Okay, so that's the Nisha Haq 3 P's of success. And by the way, if you are watching on YouTube, not necessarily if you're on the podcast, if you are watching on YouTube, I would say sometimes that something just happened in Nisha's background at a very interesting moment, that if I was in a coaching session with Nisha, I would say, and what could that mean to you? So if you're listening on the podcast, come over to YouTube and watch this. We'll just have a little bit of an intrigue about what just happened. But thank you so much for being here with me, Nisha. As any time I've ever talked to you, it is a pure joy to talk to you, but also we always go to those deeper levels of what sits under joy as well. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, no, thank you so much. I've had a lovely time with you, as always, Laura. So, no, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
It has been said that with a big enough lever, you can move the world. I've spent my life figuring out how to use that lever to move my own world. And in doing so, I help extraordinary entrepreneurs do exactly the same for themselves. So I want to offer you a perspective on what gives you the greatest leverage in your life to create wealth, health, and happiness. It's called legacy. And the lever to your legacy is within your reach. If you'd love to know more about this, go to laurapaynestanley.com/legacy.